All right, let's bring in our next guest, the award-winning, one of the best journalists ever to step foot on this planet. I've said it time and time again. Really good to have her back. She has her own podcast called Going Rogue with Lara Logan. Lara, really happy to have you back on the show. We'll talk a little Obama. Before we jump in there, let's take a listen to President Trump, what he had to say about what we now know was, I would call it almost conspiracy, maybe even racketeering. Let's take a listen to Trump.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 of the election, they tried to rig the election and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. After what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level.
So, Lara, do you think we're going to see a perp walk? I mean, the American people deserve and want to see a perp walk somewhere, somehow, someone.
Well, it's a very good question. And you know what I can tell you, Eric, is if there isn't a perp walk, if there isn't accountability, like real accountability, then we're in big trouble. Because the people that were responsible for the seditious conspiracy, that was Russia collusion, the ones who were trying to take Trump out before the 2016 election even happened, right? They're the same people that were behind derailing his presidency, the drip, drip, drip of information, you know, the fake information about, oh my goodness, the meeting at Trump Tower, and then it was the servers, the banking servers, and then it was this, and then it was General Flynn, then it was Carter Page, you know, and people forget this cost the American taxpayer millions and millions of dollars. It derailed the agenda of the president. It put innocent Americans, you know, in the crosshairs of the justice system, and some of them behind bars. It destroyed people, destroyed their lives, but it was the same people that then went on, when they weren't held accountable for that, they continued with the fake Ukraine impeachment trial, pulling out, you know, the ridiculous Caramella, the so-called whistleblower, and all those corrupt people within the CIA, within Congress, within the FBI, and so on, the Peter Strokes, and, you know, whatever his Lisa Page, right? All these people, Comey, and so on, McCabe, these are, you know, chief law enforcement officers whose job is they're under a legal obligation to protect the American people and to defend the American people, and instead they targeted innocent American citizens. And you can't allow this to continue, because the same people then went on to steal the 2020 election. They orchestrated the January 6th cover-up. I mean, they're not stopping. Then they went after Trump with, you know, completely illegal prosecutions. And you have to wonder if there was ever a bigger picture here. Did President Donald Trump fall on his sword and allow himself to be dragged through all of this to set the stage, set the trap for President Obama? Because now, although Obama, of course, can claim presidential immunity, he also has set the precedent for the accountability for a president of the United States. And certainly if he claims presidential immunity, he's not able to claim the Fifth Amendment, right? Now he's under an obligation to tell the truth because he's not going to be prosecuted. So it will be very interesting. Obama obviously was a key figure, but so was John Brennan. You know, there are others. The James Clappers of these world, they're not protected by presidential immunity. Susan Rice, you know, all of these people that had a lot to say about Trump, knowing that every single word, Hillary Clinton, every single word that they uttered, they already knew was 100% false. This was a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And let's not forget, Donald Trump said a long time ago, I'm just standing in the way. They're really after you. And that is probably one of the most important things that he has ever said, because it's true. Who did Hillary Clinton? She put a target on the back of all the Americans they were going to get rid of during the 2016 election campaign when she made her speech about deplorables. Remember that? I'm going to go after all the xenophobes and Islamophobes and homophobes and misogynists. Yeah, they were already making lists of the people that they were going to go after and bring in line. I talked to a doctor at the time who had a very good friend inside the Clinton campaign, and he was advising them on health policy. And he told me, this woman said to him, listen, what's the name of your wife and children? I'll make sure they get you off the list. And he said, what list is that? You know, and she was kind of coy about it. And she said, just trust me, you don't want to be on that list. So, you know, that was the first indication that I have that they had lists. You think they don't have lists of journalists and, you know, people who won't submit, people who spoke the truth, who didn't care about the cost. They're going to come after each and every single one of us, not for justice, not for accountability, but for a campaign of terror to intimidate and silence us.
Get out of their
so
way.
that they can push forward with an anti-American, anti-human, anti-freedom agenda.
When we question what they do, we're in their way. They want to get us out of the way. One of the ways to do it. I mean, look what happens. January 6th, those folks get thrown behind bars. They to waste for years. Steve Bannon goes to jail. Pete Navarro goes to jail. They drag Trump through lawfare for 4 years. Meanwhile, you have James Comey, who was running the FBI when Strzok and Page were saying, we're going to take President Trump down. You have John Brennan running the CIA. You have Clapper running the NSA saying, no, we're not spying on Americans without a warrant. And they were. He lied in front of Congress. And
they
it goes
lied
on
under
and
oath.
on. Why isn't one of these folks being prosecuted severely right now, the way they did to Bannon, the way they did to Trump, the way they did to Morrow and the January 6ers? Why in the hell is it not happening?
Well, probably because this is much bigger, right? I mean, because when they went after the January 6th, you had a corrupt Justice Department, you had corrupt members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. Every single Republican that said that January 6th was an insurrection or was a terrifying, violent, shameful day in the history of this country, every single one of them should be held to account for saying that, because they either were so stupid that they fell for the operation and for the narrative, or they were complicit. And if they're that stupid, they have no business being in positions of leadership in the first place. So I would be as ruthless with the Republicans as I would be with Democrats, which is, probably why I don't have a lot of political, people backing me. But that's because we care as American people. And as journalists, our responsibility is to the whole truth. And the
Laura,
reality
I'm with you, my dear. I am with you. And sometimes you get the folks saying, wait a minute, don't go after Republicans that are on our side. No, if they're corrupt and doing things that are wrong, they're not on our side. They're not on the side of the American people. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Why is a Republican-controlled Senate slow-rolling Trump's appointments? Why are we this far into the Trump administration and you have, I don't know, some places like the State Department that are only around 12% staffed at this point?
Why does Josh Hawley vote with the Democrats to derail some of Trump's policy, some of his agenda? Why? I don't know why. Because they're corrupt. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, what it appears on the surface is that there are, in fact, what I know from speaking to many people within these agencies, these agencies are still replete with people who are either against President Trump or they are complicit with the other side. But either way, the Republican Party still has a reckoning to face, which is the establishment and the rhinos versus the people, really, that make up much of the vote for Donald Trump. Those people have been dragged along into supporting Donald Trump. They've been forced into towing the line. But don't think that for one single second they're not still subverting him. I mean, it is very, very obvious. President Trump has made it clear how he feels about things, and he doesn't usually change his mind. When he says, I'm going to change the the balance of trade. It's something he had been saying for how many, 10, 20 years? You can go back to him on Oprah Winfrey talking about exactly the same things that he talked about when he got elected the first time and that he is making happen in his second term. So he's consistent. He's not afraid to change his mind if he's, learns more, but at the same time, he's consistent. So, when you see that things are not being implemented or that they're going, they're very far from what was promised, you really have to ask yourself, what are the layers in between? How many people are subverting him? How many people are controlling the information that reaches him? Because it doesn't appear to be a reflection of the man who has made his heart very obvious.
Yes. I warn the folks. I warn the folks in D.C. Keep your eye. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader. It's just keep your eyes open. He was a never Trumper for a while, complete rhino, bushy for the entirety of his career. Oh, it's getting weird out there. Look, Lara, really good having you on, my friend. Going Rogue with Lara Logan, the podcast. It's great and really good to have you, my friend.
Thank you.